So Max, I'd like to ask you a little bit about, the match day performance and the stage analysis and what you're actually doing as you're preparing to shoot and how you feel about various stages. You see, or the first stage of the match, for instance, something you hear a lot from a lot of shooters. They go, oh no, we've got this really difficult stage as our first stage. Yeah. Do you like an easy first stage, or do you not feel that that's much of a factor?
Obviously, if the first stage is easier, it always feels easier on the mind and whatnot. But I try to look at all the stages the same. They're just a problem that's set up in front of me, and I just simply have to solve that problem to the best that's going to work for me. Not for you, not for anybody else. I have to find my problem, my way of solving that particular problem. And I don't treat the first stage any differently than the last stage. I just look at it as I need to do the best that I possibly can, and I always remain in total control. 90 to 95% of my ability at all times is kind of where I like to live. And I try to kind of work within that, and just don't screw up, right? That's the thing. You just want to just kind of stay with.
Avoid the big mistakes. That's
exactly.
Key.
Minimize the risk. Minimize the risk. Consistency and repeatability equals success. That's the way I live.
And are there particular kinds of stages that you prefer? I mean, do you look at a running and gunning stage and say that's good for me? Do you look at a speed shoot and say that's right for me, or that one is not best for me?
Yeah, it's I much prefer the larger field courses. The larger field courses where you can run and jump and get some of that anxiety out and really kind of run around. The small speed shoots, it brings a lot of tension and anxiety to everyone, because what happens is now there's less time on the clock, and if there's less time on the clock, everything has to be much more technically correct. And I like that in some regard, because I do feel that I'm very technically correct, and I do feel that I can use that to my advantage. But one small mistake can cost you a lot on a 45-point course of fire, where one small mistake on a 160-point course of fire doesn't cost quite as much, and you can kind of run your way through it rather than thinking and making sure your technique is proper.
Do you push harder or less so on some stages or another, depending on, say, how the match is going, or how suitable the particular stage is for you?
I don't find myself really pushing in one way or the other. I'm always going to shoot 90 to 95% of my ability, and I try to do my very best to shoot 95% of the available points. And if I live by that, I'll be consistent and repeatable, and it allows me to win at the end. But I do find myself more comfortable in some other situations, and if I'm more comfortable, then I'm shooting better probably anyway. I'm not as cautious on some larger targets that are open, and I can utilize my strengths to my advantage in that situation. However, if I see things that kind of catch my eye and could possibly be an issue, then I might pay a little more attention, or maybe back off a little bit further to make sure that I'm not going to make that mistake or give myself less of a chance of making the mistake, because we're all human, we all make mistakes, but I'm trying to minimize the risk of that mistake.
Right, you see some shooters when you're looking at it, and this comes up a lot with activated targets. You look at the stage and you go, well, I can activate and shoot 3 targets before the swinger, and I can probably do that, or I can shoot 2 targets and I can definitely do that. And there's going to be somebody who's going to shoot those 3 targets and get it right and probably win the stage. But how often do you find yourself saying, I have to go for that? 3 targets is possible, risky, right, but I'm going to do it anyway, versus back off and shoot just the 2 and make sure you get all the points?
Yeah, I'm probably one of the most boring guys you'll ever meet. I'm very, very methodical and very analytical, and I think my way through everything. So I want the positive results. I want the ones that I know that I can do. I think that's something I learned from you as well, is to take away the fear of the unknown, you have to know what you can do. In that situation, I can maybe, that's not good enough. If you have maybe, anxiety goes up, performance goes down. It has to be I know. So if I know what I can do, I shoot this piece of steel, it takes me 1/4 of a second to transition here, 0.2 of a second to get a pickup shot, whatever it is, you add this all up and you figure it out. Can I do that? Yes, I feel like I can definitely do that. And if you feel you can do it, you'll do it, and you'll do it very well. If you feel like, I don't know if I can or not, you'll rush something and you'll miss something that's very important for maybe a target that's a bonus target because it's a partial, or it spins and goes away and you're rushing to try to get there. So I do my best to always do the ones that I feel like I can do best. The only times I'll ever kind of go out of my comfort zone and do something different is if it's toward the end of the match and I know I need to gain some points, and I can see that, and I'm not there for second place anyway, and I want to try to maybe go for it. Then I'll try to look at that. If the hit factor, meaning the points per second, allow me the reward of what that risk is going to be possibly giving me, I'll go for it. But other than that, it's most of the time going to be going for that straight guaranteed points.
But you do that calculation beforehand. You look at that and you go, well, if I get it, that's worth so many potential match points. If I don't get it, this is the risk in match points that I'm taking. Right. You need to be able to analyze that, calculate that. And that goes back to understanding the scoring and how it works on every stage.
Right. Maybe give up 5 points for this stage so you can win the match later.
Max, do you prefer to try and lead the match from the start and let everyone else chase you, or are you comfortable coming from behind and trying to win in the later stages as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel I'm probably more loose if I'm coming from behind. I feel like I'm aggressive. I feel like I can push and not necessarily out of my comfort zone, but I feel like I'm charging forward, and it's kind of a fun part of the game for me. But ideally, yes, you want to lead from the front and you want to keep it. There's nothing greater for me than, let's say it's a 5-day U.S. national match and I'm going into day 3 and I'm 60 points ahead, and you're not necessarily going to lay back, but you can enjoy yourself a little bit more. You can enjoy the moment a little more, and you can just shoot within total control and know that all you have to do is just, the match is in your hands. You simply just have to perform your job, and the others are chasing you. And if they're chasing you, then that's when the mistakes become more prevalent, and that's when they're going to fall back even further.
So it's really important to be able to keep your eye on the scoreboard, to know what your lead is or how many points you're behind. How do you do that on the squad? And there's no scoring real time. So do you run scores on an iPhone, or do you just mentally do it?
Just mentally. I just mentally kind of keep track of where I am and what I'm doing. I know who in the squad are going to be the ones. You'll typically know after the first day. I mean, and even before the first day, because you've been shooting with these guys all year, so you know who's capable of doing what. So I just kind of keep track in my head where I'm at all times.
And they post every day usually. So
they do. So you can go back at the end of the day and see exactly where you're at for the most part. And I don't analyze results so much that I'm trying to let it affect my performance, but I do want to make sure that I'm on the right track. Because if I am falling behind, I need to know that, and I need to decide, am I going to adjust my game plan, or am I going to stick with this current game plan and just see what happens at the end, or am I going to try to make something happen and get a win?
How important do you feel the momentum is, to build the momentum, to string together 2 or 3 or 5 good stages? And how important is it to be able to make the turn and switch it off after you've had a bad stage and not allow that to carry forward to the next one?
Yeah, that's critical in our game. Momentum is everything. It's just like, again, I revert back to football because I love it, but it's just like, if you're down by 14 and you're driving and you can kick a field goal before halftime, well, now you're only down by 11. You're still down, but you just got some momentum going into that second half. Same thing with shooting for me. It's like, if I can get momentum and get it moving in the right direction, it's just easier. It continues to go that way. If you're one of those shooters where something bad happens, it's also very easy for it to keep getting worse. And to counter that, what I do is I just always make sure I surround myself with the right people. Blake Maguez is a great guy that I go on the road with from time to time and shoot matches, because he's there for fun. And if I make a mistake, he makes sure that I'm still having fun and still doing what I do, and understand that, hey, this is a game that others would die to have your job. Just enjoy yourself while you're there. So just surround yourself with the right people. And
positive attitudes is everything.
Positive attitude. If you surround yourself with positive people, you'll be positive. You surround yourself with success, you'll be success. So it's just one of those things that momentum is very powerful, and it can go either way. And the powerful thing about it, I think, is that if its momentum is going your way and you're shooting in the super squad and others see that, it makes them anxious, and it makes them start to grow like, okay, I need to do something. I need to make a move.
Maybe push too hard.
And that's when they make a mistake, and your momentum can keep going. And then, it's very enjoyable to win a match that way. Very comfortable.
Do you feel that you need to maintain the same level of intensity mentally the entire day, or do you allow yourself to go up and down during, the waiting periods between stages?
I allow myself to go up and down to some degree, mainly because the guys I shoot with are fairly young, and they're fairly immature at times. So if you don't find...
Not so young, but still immature.
Exactly, yeah. I keep thinking, this one guy in particular, he's not getting any younger, but he just keeps getting immature. I don't get it. But anyway, it's one of those things that they're going to enjoy themselves. They're going to laugh. They're going to have fun. They're going to joke anyway. So I like to be a part of it because it does relax me. It puts me at ease, and allows me to feel that, man, maybe this isn't all that's to life. If you win this national championship today, that's my personal goal. It's what I want. But if I lose it, my kids will still love me. My kids are still they better anyway. They're still going to care for me. They're still going to want to be with me, and so it puts me at ease. But there's definitely a moment when it's time to go to work, and I can click that on, and they know to stay away from me at that point. And
how early on do you do that before you're up to shoot? Where's the point where you go, okay, this is where you're not talking to anyone anymore, and this is where you're in your build up towards the actual shoot?
I would say at this point in my career, probably 3 to 4 shooters before it's my turn to shoot. That's when, because all the work's already been done. The visualization's been done. The walkthrough has been done. The mag preparation, everything's done. So those last 3 or 4 shooters, I'm just completely focused, sitting in my chair or walking around, whatever the case may be, but eyes are closed, focused on the last preparation, the visualization, and just making sure everything is set and ready to go. Going over that pre-execution checklist, everything's taken care of. There's no surprises that's going to happen when the buzzer goes off, and I can just make sure my mind is set and ready to go and not joking around with the buddy before it's your turns next to shoot.
Sure. And you mentioned visualization, but tell us a bit about how you do that. What type of visualization do you do? Do you see yourself executing the stage externally, or are you seeing it through the sights? How often do you do it? To what detail do you try to get?
I definitely see as the shooter. It's first person. I'm shooting the gun in my visualization. And how often do I do it? I do it as many times as I need to do it until I can see it without needing to wonder what's next.
Down to every detail, where the targets are, if it's a partial, if it's a full target, if it's a play.
And I go into so much detail that if I'm shooting iron sights, I want to see what type of sight picture I want to use. I utilize 3 different types of sight pictures when I'm shooting irons, and I want to make sure I'm seeing those types of sight pictures and which one I'm going to utilize, which foot I'm going to come into this position with. Maybe you see the brass come out. Do you see it in color? Do you see it in black and white? Those are the things that you can train on by simply visualizing your favorite drill every night before you go to sleep. And it can eventually you see yourself getting better and better at it, meaning things may start to darken, things may start to become more clear, and it's very powerful. And you should be doing visualization enough times until it's your turn to shoot, so that way you can, essentially what's happening is your brain is the hardware, and you're trying to download the software onto that. And that's Course of Fire is the software. If I can download that Course of Fire perfectly the way I want to do it, well, I can just simply turn it on, press click, and go ahead and go when the buzzer goes off, rather than when the buzzer goes off trying to think yourself through it.
Yeah, it has to be automated.
It has to be automated. You're on autopilot. You can only think of one thing consciously, and I choose to think about where are my sights in relationship to the target at all times. Other than that, it's subconscious mind is taking over. Good or bad, the work's been done, and buzzer goes off, good or bad, it's going to come out.
So when you're standing on the line and you get the load and make ready, and you're taking the last few breaths and you're waiting for the beep, what's your mental picture? What are you thinking?
At that point, when I'm waiting for the beep, I'm looking at a specific spot on the first target I want to engage, and I'm just thinking about getting a proper grip and proper sight picture on it. Once that happens, that's when the subconscious and the conscious mind link, I feel. I'm not a scientist, but when the conscious and subconscious mind link, I feel like that's when that's going to take over anyway. So if that last conscious effort could be good grip, good sight picture, good things will follow.
And do you make a point to try and watch some of the other top shooters shoot? Is that something that you do intentionally, or is something that you avoid intentionally?
Yeah, no, I watch the guys, but I will not watch the shooter in front of me or the couple shooters in front of me unless there's an activating target or a swinging, something that I need to see to get last little bit of intel on to feel comfortable and confident with my plan. Other than that, I don't put any. They're not going to bother me if they do good or bad. I just want to get in some intel there. But those last couple of shooters, the reason why I won't watch them is so I can really focus on my game plan, because they may be shooting it slightly differently. Right. So I want to keep my head down, keep my eyes down, and just as they're going through the Course of Fire, I'm listening to the range officer start beep. Does he have a long pause between standby and beep? Is it a quick one? I want to hear that. So those are the kind of things I'm paying attention to and really focusing on my particular game plan at that point.
And to me, I always worried about what are you going to see, because I think it's very important to have a positive feel about the stage when you go to shoot. And if you see the guy just before you and you were watching him and he totally screwed it up and shot 5 extra shots at the plates and had an awful run, and that's the last thing you've been looking at just as you go to shoot, I think that sets you up with the wrong frame of mind. If I could be sure that he would have a fantastic run, I'd probably like to watch it, but you can't be sure of that, so I prefer not to. And I'll go, as you say, 3 or 4 shooters back. Too late to make any changes to my game plan anyway, and I'd just rather be able to, maintain the mental control that I want and not be influenced by what the other guys are doing.
You got it. Yeah, just pick your plan and execute. That's the thing.
How important do you find it to be surrounded at the big matches with the top guys? Do you think you could shoot as well on one of the other squads where you had no one anywhere near your level?
I do shoot a lot of matches where there's not a super squad. Maybe I shoot the pre-match. A lot of matches this past couple of years I've been shooting with courses. So I have 10, 12 students with me, and I go first on every stage, and I'm teaching and training throughout the entire process. And it does affect my performance. I feel like I can be 5% better if I was shooting with guys like you that are going to push me and make me work, of course. So I think if you were shooting with people that are better than you or just as good as you, it's going to push you and make you feel that you need to put work in. But at the same time, I think when you're shooting in a more comfortable environment, you're probably going to make less mistakes because there's no pressure involved. But again, you're probably not going to be as fast or as aggressive as you may want to be because you're not getting that extra push. And I found that pretty apparent at a match I shot a couple years ago. that I thought I had a pretty decent match for the most part. I mean, I didn't have any mistakes, maybe a couple deltas maximum. I have 12 stages or something, and when I got the results out, I think I won by 1% or less than 1% to a guy that he's a good shooter, but he's typically 5 to 10% behind me. And I thought I had a good match, and that's when I realized that it does pay to make sure you have someone that can keep you on track, even if it's a limited shooter that pushes you really hard, that shoots really quickly, like a Blake Maguez or a Travis Tomasi, one of those guys that really shoot quickly, and you're shooting the match with them, and they're keeping you on track, and you're pushing each other because you know maybe you're 2 seconds faster than that person or this person or whatever it is. So I do find it very important to be able to shoot with people as good or better than you.